Man, that's gotta be one of the most emotional remakes I've ever heard, even over the original. Welcome back to another chapter of Mortal Kombat Vengeance. Last time, we just encountered Natara and reunited with Cyrax as Sonya found him near the active volcano. And he was heading into the lava shrine because he was appointed by Natara, the vampire, to separate her world from Outworld by shattering an orb. Unfortunately, it was inaccessible due to the lava pools, but Cyrax was able to get to it, but not for long because the lava was too much, and Kwai had to rescue him. So, Natara, she separated her realm, but that was it. She never bothered to save the lame Kuei. So Hanzo, as Cyrax was heading back to Earthrealm, as promised by Natara, Hanzo was able to save Kwai and Frost from the intense heat, because the Dragon Medallion, he was trying to cool him off, but he was exposed. So Hanzo managed to save the two Cryomancers. And meanwhile, on the Dragonfly, as it landed, they were actually rescued by Baraka, who actually massacred a couple of those Outworld bums, which was roughly inspired by another WB property, which I hate. And it turned out that Baraka, much like Aiko, came from her dystopian future and also went back in time. But the heroes were a little skeptical with Baraka's intentions. So, with him joining the heroes, let's see what happens next. Alright, here we are. Continuation 9, The Secret Whirlwind Kick. The Dragonfly took off with Baraka still in tow. Each of the Kabans were very wary on what he would do. Some of them, like Kung Lao, would think he may lead them to a trap or bloody Tarkatan ambush, as they were sure that there would be several of them waiting at Shang Tsung's palace. These worries didn't deter Liu Kang, though. His spirit has been doing some pondering on what went wrong over Bo's stupor as he discussed it with his retainer. He believed that ever since he became champion in the first tournament, Bo lost his purpose and left to Outworld, being drunk and chaotic in the process, thus being banned from the academy, considering the Bimbo's former claim on him being champion would pass over to Shao Kahn. I still don't believe him, Liu Kang. If there's anyone who trained us well, it most certainly be Master Raiden. Fushin as well. The former monk had a brief flashback on developing his tornado at the Wind World, then he wondered what has become of the brother gods. You think those elemental deities trained you well, Kung Lao? Wait. You think those elemental deities trained you well, Kung Lao? They got nothing on me. That gruffy voice not only made the Shaolin brothers startle, but everyone else on board. What they saw was the same bulky, wide load they encountered in the Outworld plains. Bo Rai Cho was back. Oh boy. Lao abruptly stood up just in utter free shock, while everyone else stalled, including Aiko. He just put his arms on his hips, wearing a pompous composure. He just spoke down to his disciple. You will never stand a chance against the deadly alliance without me. His teeth and eyes gleamed amongst the mountainous shadow. Bo Rai Cho, how is it you became a stowaway? Baraka just bore his fangs and dashed toward the drunken bastard as he snarled and crossed his shiny arm blades. He lunged while Bo braced himself, with his thick, powerful arms blocking his lethal advance. Liu's astral form dematerialized from the amulet and pleaded for the two warring Outworlders to stand down. That Baraka was only there as an informant from the future and a helpful asset against his own kind, even searching for his close ally, Reptile. He was reluctant since Baraka was responsible for leading the Wuxi invasion, and all Lao uttered was, "Baraka, let him go." The nomad broke away without sheathing his lethal swords. "How and why did you come here?" "No thanks to you, treacherous mutant." "That's certain. I see you're close to Shang Tsung's accursed palace, and I have more personal matters. So we must stop dilly-dallying and make haste." He said he was trying to find a young gifted outworlder named Li Mei, and he believed she and her people were captured by the Deadly Alliance, perhaps as sacrifices for Onaga and his undead army, or possibly serving them in a hostile way. He mentioned that Li Mei was another promising student of his, and only she kept him from going completely addicted to alcoholism. What good would a teacher be without his student, right? You must be referring to the primitive village of Sundo. Bo just smirked. You're not too shabby for an outward scout after all. But we have more important matters, Master Bo. The Lardo's eyes became as wide as the ship's propellers, even his gaping mouth. Is that you, Liu Kang? Lao just sulked. He was dead, by Shang Tsung. Made a quick recap of Liu's tragic fate. He and Quan made a surprise attack when the demon shapeshifter broke his neck. There was a ferocious lightning storm conjured by Raiden, then relinquishing the Elder God status and encased Liu's soul. Lao took out the golden dragon amulet to prove it. Bo Rai Cho just hung his saggy head and shinning as he shook it. He slurred he was sorry to hear of Liu's death by the Deadly Alliance, but Lao never bought it and just let him be. Which means you would probably need more work than anyone. Somehow Lao dreaded this, but at the same time he almost felt thankful. Lao actually couldn't help but give a slight bow. I am willing to do whatever it takes. Excellent, my pupil. I shall show you. His blubbery body hopped to a more spacious spot on the main deck. Lao had no choice but to follow after him. He just that with a shrug. The path of every warrior has a humble beginning, and the road to one's destiny is long traveled. Each of life's challenges brings you closer to enlightenment. Experience is the path to understanding. By completing these many journeys to come, you will have gained the strength, speed, agility, and wisdom to master a variety of fighting arts. Every step is a victory. How you maneuver in combat plays as much a part of your strategy as how you punch or kick. Do not assume that offensiveness is always the correct path to victory. A hasty retreat can give you the space you need to plan for your next attack. Do not be discouraged. This toggled a memory in Lao. He was sparring with Liu Kang in the academy, although he lost as the champion lectured.
You see now why we still train?
That was a lucky strike. Let's go again. I will show you.
No, Kung Lao. The training you require is mental, not physical. You cannot surpass your limitations until you acknowledge them.
That was actually a shout-out to Mortal Kombat Onslaught. Training is mental, not physical. Bo was impressed on Lao's uttering. Indeed! Now utilize it! He gave Lao plenty of wiggle room. He's shown him through charades and descriptions of the secret Whirlwind Kick, which is said to be the equivalent of Liu's lethal maneuvers. Lao was taken aback that this horizontal charge required him to dive into the opponent legs first, while his body rotates rapidly. Bo was confident if he can master the tornado kick, a vertical move, he can surely ace this secret technique. Hit me, if you can. Lao made a fighting stance before he kicked in, closed in on the easy target. His legs didn't lift him off the wooden floor, although they were flexible enough to perform rapid spinning kicks. Bo backed away again, and Lao made a second attempt, lurching his body horizontally, although the move made the Oriental lose his altitude as he fell. Aiko ran to him and tended him with her cardiokinesis, healing the deep gash on his arm. Oof. Bo just stood there like a sturdy tree. Try again. Practice chips away the rough edges. One wins battles by making no mistakes. Making no mistakes is what establishes the certainty of victory, for it means conquering an enemy that is already defeated. Lao dusted himself off, although he flexed his legs before he repeated the lethal strike. Use your heart to cast a vortex while you kick. Move your chicken legs. Let your rapidity be that of the wind. Lao nodded. He lunged at Bo with his legs with massive force, while he spun horizontally and making his hat assist him before hovering and losing his balance. The landing was proven to be more difficult than the action itself. Lao nearly had vertigo as he regained his posture. Good. Make sure you're prepared for not only your execution, but how you land afterwards. You do not want to be open for another attack. Make the technique a part of yourself before you move on. Lao nodded and made a short bow in affirmation. Then Bo decided to train another pupil of his, which happened to be Aiko herself. The former monk just continued this complicated combat move with Jax as his shield partner, while Sonya volunteered to pilot the dragonfly. He's training Aiko. Baraka commented, Ooh, Aiko was a promising warrior in my time. During the Wuxi tournament, she was able to best the both of us in combat. Queen Sindel helped hone her skills. Besting me in combat? No! As long as she cannot master her multiple fighting styles, she won't be a formidable opponent. Commanded her to draw out her bow staff, and to her astonishment, the nearly 6-foot rod was longer than her entire body. Don't be fooled of its outstanding length. There's more to it than meets the eye. He even helped her adjust it. It wasn't always the 5'9", but it can go as small as 8 inches. Bo stated that the Kwando staff was also called a bow, ironically, and used in feudal Japan. And if she needed to use it for striking or blocking, she'd need to adjust it like using an umbrella. For you to become a true master of Mortal Kombat, you must learn to attack with multiple fighting styles. Every warrior has 3 fighting styles, each with its own strengths and weaknesses. Aiko has mastered many, Baraka commented. Her cardiokinesis is her main method, but that bow staff is also powerful. Ah, the bow staff is a deadly and elegant weapon if understood properly, and how its balance has benefits and disadvantages as well in battle. Aiko gave a slight nod with a bit of stuttering. Understood, but how exactly is this supposed to help me improve myself in combat? Becoming familiar with the fighting styles of the warrior is very important. Know a fighting style like you would know yourself. Let no attribute escape you. She adjusted the bow to medium. She followed the bulky man's advice, striking with it rapidly, not as hard as it could waste her strength. He mentioned that agility and grace is just as important than brute. After a while, her stamina was running low. You're finally learning, Aiko, but my lessons can only take you so far. Yeah, understood. Thanks for the lessons so far. The cardiokinetic never thought she'd be in tutelage of a recovering alcoholic. Bo then switched gears. Now, what do you do when your weapon is knocked out of your hand? You go on the defensive instead of rushing in blind. This is where using your hands in combat comes in. Oh, okay. Now I get it. You mean like using an open hand when splitting blocks? The brief training sessions of the Shaolin entered her mind. Each level was different, starting from wood to stone, steel to diamond, for the most advanced and strongest of the clan. Test your might, anyone? It's a lot more than that. Open-hand combat was something the White Lotus Society specialized in. Even Kung Lao himself knocked the weapon away from Aiko's firm hands, landed with a clatter onto the wooden deck. Aiko immediately took out her club, the same one she had since she mastered the Ankylosaurus animality. "No, Aiko! It's good you have a backup, but that shouldn't be the way." She slowly withdrew it. The master even recoiled her idea on retrieving it. However, Bo was eager to teach her an open hand. Probably the nuktai, a spear hand blow with the fingers extended and compressed together before thrusting into a small diameter, preferably the throat. Bo said the palm strike known as the shoulder and the Shaolin fist. Seeing Kung Lao made her heart warm, and through determination and patience, she was able to learn them, even perform rapid hits of the nuktai onto a small target like Lao used to do in an enemy's neck. But then other maneuvers needed some work. "Try again. It is important that you understand how to perform the various types of attacks if you wish to emerge victorious." He then taught her she needed to block with her bow as well, although she needed to learn it on the fly in order to do so. She was impressed the same weapon could be used offensively and defensively. "Good form and decent blocking. You're making progress." He even struck first to test Aiko's reflexes, which was an evasion, before she closed in, even blocking with her bow at times before using it for striking. He mentioned it was vital for all his trainees to maintain their pressure and momentum and never let their pride be tossed in the wind. "Never let your guard down, even if you are inches away from victory. Remember that." Before he knew it, Bo moved on to Nightwolf, although his technique wasn't anything physical, but rather spiritual. In fact, it was quite similar to Aiko's own kinesis, which utilized the Matoken on draining souls. He happened to be an expert when it came to his various fighting styles, though he still needed his Wolf Kiba as a power boost. Even if Kung Lao shall do the same with Lu's ardent soul. Bo brought it up it can confuse Shang, with two souls fighting within one body. After a short break, Bo lectured to each of his 3 students they must master all 3 of their own fighting styles in order to outmaneuver and overmatch the Deadly Alliance. He wasn't, however, sure whom he should spar against to demonstrate their strength and strategies. I was never sure. Wow, I'm done already? "Unless you can master the 3 fighting styles of each warrior, you will be ground into dust by your opponent. If not, there is no hope for your survival on these journeys. If you desire total victory in Mortal Kombat, you must learn to harness the tools at your disposal." All of a sudden, the dragonfly violently shook. Everyone was tossed asunder while some managed to hold on to the metallic guardrails, or whatever stable component they can find. Surprisingly, there was no flames, but thick smoke emitted from the impact site. The propellers began to shut down as their blades ceased, slicing the air. Screams were heard amongst the chaos, although Lao kept struggling to move despite heavy gravity taking over. He hardly heard a male shouting to brace for emergency landing and for crash landing, but he immediately saw Aiko in a shaky fetal position. He went to her first, covering her body beneath his secure, firmer anchor. Then he hollered over the destruction. "Crawl to me! I can teleport us out to safety! Come on!" Kept on straining his voice for the gang to hear, and slowly they managed to get closer. By the time Lao's eyes struggled to see multiple bodies surrounding him and obscuring the gray sky, he conjured as much strength as he could muster. Everything vanished when a flash of light. Before, moments later, Kung Lao plummeted to the rough brush below. The next thing he knew was the dragonfly falling and clashing like a kamikaze jet, blasting into many pieces of debris. Not gonna lie, these plot elements in this chapter was inspired by the roleplay, from Baraka going back through time, to gifting her the Bo or Kwon Do staff, to mentioning Queen Cinderella's Aiko's mentor. Also, those events were around 5,000 years into the future, where Baraka and the different counterparts of Aiko and Sindel were from, so it may not be canon. Still, I love those ideas before Baraka turned later on, and Sindel too. As matters stand, I don't know if matters now. They shall be elements to my fanfics and nothing more. My friends left me, so that's how matters stand, even now. Needless to say, I'm not going to cover every conquest for each character, so the main three would be my golden boys, Kung Lao and Nightwolf, and my OC being trained by Bo Rai Cho. Ironic, since he had the same name as the staff Aiko was using. I also needed to make an abrupt ending somewhere, thus the idea on having the dragonfly shot down, by whom Sonya presumed it was Su Hao, and I'm pretty sure that Kung Lao's teleport can carry many who make contact, like Rose's teleport in Final Fantasy IV. Oh, and the flashback scene was of course from Mortal Kombat Onslaught on Lou's advice that training is mental than physical. Even Sindel uttered those same words to her Edenian Nephilim daughter Valor, which at first was, then it changed to Descendant, but she remained as a Darksider's OC, so there's no relation. And there are the songs for that. So what would become of our heroes? Had they survived the crash? Well, find out later. Until then, this is the Ikran Writer signing out, and I'll see you guys next time.